Chapter 8. Stranded on Two Continents. The morning sun was just beginning to cast a warm glow over Seoul when Sarah and Maya arrived at Hannah's house with coffee and donuts in hand. The front door was unlocked, a common practice in the neighborhood. They called out Mina's name, but there was no reply. Their initial smiles of excitement vanished, replaced by confusion. They were completely stunned when they couldn't find her anywhere. They tried calling her phone, but its ringing echoed faintly from somewhere inside the house. They found it on a small table vibrating silently, a text message on the screen. It was from Mina to Liam, sent just after midnight. It read, "I'm going to go out for a walk and do some exploring." A cold dread washed over Sarah. Her heart pounding, she tried to use the translating gadget to ask Hannah and the grandmother where Mina might have gone, but they were as confused as she was. Sarah, her mind racing, immediately decided to call the police. "I'm going to have to," she said to Maya, her voice shaking. "We don't know where she is. This is not how we planned to start the day." Just as she was pulling her phone from her purse, the door opened and Mina walked in, a small bag of pastries in her hand. "Morning," she said, smiling. "I just went out to get something to eat." Mina finally got lucky and made her way back after a few hours of searching. She had, after all, arrived late at night, but she did recognize a familiar red front gate. Relief flooded Sarah's face, but it was quickly replaced by a storm of anger. "Where have you been, Mina?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "You said you just went out to eat, but I read your text to Liam. You said you were heading out." "That's a lie. We've been looking for you for almost an hour. We were worried sick. I would ground you for 2 weeks had you done something like this and lied to me back in the USA." Mina's smile faded. She came clean, admitting she had gone for a walk and had gotten completely lost. "Mom, I wasn't in any danger," she insisted, her voice full of confidence. "Korea is one of the safest countries in the world. There are no guns and I wasn't around any drugs or anything bad like that. I was just exploring. You told me to embrace my culture and that's what I was doing. I was mostly at a PC room here, or bong as they call it." As the argument unfolded, the translating gadget, still on, sat on the table. Hannah listened, her eyes fixed on the floor, her shoulders hunched in shame. She understood every word. She knew her willingness to let Mina stay had caused this. She briefly thought about coming to Mina's aid and assuring Sarah that she would keep a close eye on her, but decided against this as she felt it wasn't her place to impose on their family. She also thought that she lost Mina after only a single day. This was making her inadequacies as an absent parent feel all the more real. Sarah's anger, though still palpable, was tempered by Mina's words. She took out her phone and did a quick search, confirming that Korea was indeed one of the safest countries in the world. But her fury didn't fully subside. "I appreciate you being honest with me," she said, her voice softening but still stern. "But you can't just run off. I was terrified. For the rest of this trip, you cannot leave my side. And if you want to keep spending the night with Hannah and your grandmother, they'll have to come stay with us at the hotel." Hannah, who had been listening, immediately smiled and happily agreed. A biker's pickle. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit biker bar in the middle of Montana, David was living his own adventure. He was surrounded by a group of grizzled but friendly bikers who were plying him with beers and advice. A man named Snake, with a long gray beard and a tattoo of a coiled rattlesnake on his bicep, laughed. "Sounds like you got yourself into a little identity crisis too, like Mina," he said, a grin on his face. "But hey, sometimes you gotta hit the road alone to remember who you are. The road'll teach you a thing or two." Another biker, named Gus, offered him some more practical advice. "You gotta check your tire pressure every morning, son. That's the first thing you do. And if you see a motel with a flashing neon light, just keep on going. They ain't never no good. You want the one with at least one good review online that has a small restaurant with it so you can get you some grub after a long ride. Hours on the road will surprisingly exhaust you. Just make sure to get all your stuff in the room before it gets dark. Never know what's out there. Just remember your bike is the most important thing. You take care of her and she'll take care of you." "She. I always thought of my bike as a he," David shot back. "You really want to think of yourself as sitting for hours on a guy, bro? Let that sink in." David thought about it for a second and realized it definitely made more sense to call his bike a she. They spent hours talking, and David had a little too much to drink by the time the night ended. He thanked them for the advice and camaraderie, and then, a bit wobbly on his feet, he got an Uber to a hotel for the night, leaving his bike at the bar. Although he was planning on camping out under the stars, he was in no condition to attempt to set up a tent. The next morning, a few hours after getting back on the road, he was admiring the beautiful scenery when his back tire went flat. He pulled over to the side of the road, cursing under his breath. It was in that moment of frustration that he realized he hadn't checked the tire pressure since he started the trip, not even while he was riding around the national parks. It must have caused a small puncture. He was in the middle of nowhere and he had no idea what to do. He stood there for what felt like hours, a thumb held out as dozens of cars passed him by without even a glance. Just as he was about to give up and start walking, an old rusty pickup truck with a cloud of exhaust smoke rattling from its tailpipe pulled over. The driver, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, looked at him. "Need a ride, son?" she asked. He did. A crown of royalty. Back in Seoul, all 5 women were on their way to Gyeongbokgung Palace. The tension from the morning had finally started to dissipate, replaced with a shared sense of wonder. They rented beautiful hanboks and walked through the palace grounds, the colorful silk of the traditional garments a stark contrast to the modern buildings in the background. They posed for pictures in front of the grand halls, the numerous details of the royal architecture a perfect backdrop. Mina stood in the central courtyard, and her imagination began to run wild. She imagined the dignitaries, dressed in their finest robes, walking through the same courtyard hundreds of years ago. She pictured the kings and queens being crowned, their faces full of royal dignity, the very people whose blood still runs through her veins. She pictured herself here at a celebration for a wedding or a Korean holiday like Chuseok or the Lunar New Year party she saw in her dream. A profound sense of belonging washed over her, a feeling she had never experienced before. They later explored the burial tombs of kings, a solemn and beautiful experience that reminded them of the rich history of their country. She thought about the noble people who had lived and died here, and for the first time, their history wasn't just a story in a book. It was a part of her. The day was a beautiful blend of history and family, a moment of connection that transcended all of their differences.